So the order we have here is UMass, Illinois, Holy Cross, and Marist. So the Holy Cross people I've never met. Are you back there? Okay. And I'm just going to pull up the instructions. Hopefully all of your teams have had their picture taken. You all know that the award ceremony begins at 4:30, but food will be set out at 4. And if you haven't already, make sure and get all your votes in for the moral compass as soon as you can after we're done. So I'm going to read this before we start with UMass, and if anyone else wants me to read it again, no problem. And if you don't need me to read it again, that's fine too. So imagine you're an employee of the company whose case you've been studying. You're at a meeting in which people are discussing the issue. However, no one has brought up ethics. There's a pause in the conversation. You have 90 seconds in which to convince the other people at the meeting that there are ethical issues that need to be addressed. You do not have to argue for a solution. You just need them to see that there are serious ethical issues here. And obviously there's just one member of your team doing it. Okay, any questions at all? Okay, again, thank you for your patience. Sorry, I was 2 minutes late. Who from UMass? Okay. Do you want to stand, sit?
I'm thinking standing, if that's all right.
Okay.
Should I be in the front?
Yeah,
Where should
yeah,
I be?
yeah. Make it so you know they can see you on this and that. And do you want to do the phone or you? Because for what it's worth, no one in the audience is allowed to signal her about time. So time is 100% you.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
And then when I begin, is that when time starts?
Yep. And I'm gonna
Yeah, great.
do the smartwatch and yes, I'll press it when I hear your voice. Oh, are you deciding to sit?
I'm gonna sit and stand, but I don't want to spoil the 90 second. Hi guys, thank you for having me here today, and I'm really excited to be part of the conversation about AI and scheduling. But as a GAP employee, for 5 years part-time on the floor, I want to bring up some ethical considerations that I think we need to talk about that we haven't been talking about. I'm all for the 2025 commitment to equity and belonging that GAP has committed to, but I think that with adopting AI and scheduling new technology, I fear for my data privacy and my data security. I'm entrusting you with such key information to who I am. I want to make sure that as a company, I can trust you and that there's some transparency there. I fear for cyber attacks. How is GAP gonna put in, implementations to make sure that I'm safe as an employee? I also worry about data bias when implementing AI and scheduling. I worry that if I have an accident tomorrow, we need to take a month off of work to recover, that AI and its black box that we don't know how it works is going to negatively affect me as an employee. I fear for that. I care so deeply about this company. When I needed to choose to go to my sister's wedding, where was the first place I went to go shop? It was the Gap. When I needed a suit to go to college, where was the first place I went to shop? It was the Gap. And I want to make sure that as an employee, that I can flourish and thrive and build those social relationships that I feel like I'm entitled to as an employee. And before we wrap up my statement and we can continue the meeting, I just want to make sure that we're sticking to the 2025 commitments as we implement AI and scheduling, and that it's handled with the tact and voice that it deserves so I can flourish in the workplace. We can continue.
Okay. Fantastic. Okay, so I'll give feedback when we're done with everybody. So now we have the pleasure of welcoming our friends from Illinois. Oh, they're not here? You're playing hard to get.
Should we look at it? Might have gotten closed out. I think that's happened a couple of times.
Oh, they might have thought 2:45 as well.
Everybody's sorry.
Okay, well, let's go with Holy Cross. Let's see, so your name is? Coltrane? Yeah. Okay. John Coltrane, just like that. Okay. And do you have a preference for standing or sitting or?
I like to see that, I'm doing this.
Okay. Everyone should be like Dan. I want to be like Dan. Dan is who I want to be like.
Inspiration. So I can not stop watch right here?
Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Michael, for making no go. Yeah, so what I'll do is I've just got it in front of me, so whatever moment you start, I'm gonna press and listen.
Coca-Cola's mission statement has been to refresh the world and make a difference. Yet sadly, 40% of our plastic packaging is from our bottles. Not only that, but we have committed to having 100% recycled content in our bottles by 2030. I think our impact on the environment deserves a much faster time to commit. Coca-Cola has put many bottles in our environment, our ecosystem, our oceans, our green grass, and it's a problem. We need to address it as soon as possible, and we need to take our effect on the environment way more seriously than we do right now. Not only for the people around us, but our children and our children's children. We have an obligation to every person, not only in the United States, but the world, to collect the plastic that we formerly have used and currently use and recycle it to commit to our 100% recycled content by 2030. Thank you.
Okay, very good, Coltrane, thank you. And then we have a team from Marist. This is Laura?
Lauren.
Lauren. Lauren, are we having fun?
Yeah,
Okay, you're gonna stay seated?
probably.
Okay. You're not gonna throw anything.
Hopefully not.
Okay, good. So yeah, same as your colleagues, I'll click when you start and whenever you're ready.
One thing that we haven't talked about yet that I think is important is the fact that our former CEO lied to investors about our technological advancements, our production capabilities, and our financial standing. And this was for his financial gain and for the investors' loss. Because of this, we're left with a damaged reputation, and our investors have lost their trust with us. I believe that we have an ethical obligation to fix this harm that we've done to investors. And in order to do this, I think we need to issue a public apology where we pledge to do better to our investors and in which we can honor our stakeholders even more than we have in the past. I also believe that we should kickstart an ethical committee that will consist of both internal and external members of the organization, and that will be overseen by a new position in the board of directors, which is VP of Ethical Affairs. With this position, they will oversee a ethical contract with rights and uphold that by posting it on our website to keep us accountable in the future, so nothing like this ever happens again. I also believe that we should create a repayment plan for our fund investors to rebuild that trust that we've lost. Because of this, I think we can become a leader in the EV industry and that we can fix the harm that was done to our investors in the future.
Okay. Excellent. And so we have our friends from Illinois.
Yeah.
Oh, you're playing hard to get? I'm in no position, I was late myself. I somehow remembered it was 2:45, and I said, I am so cool because I'm 28 minutes early. So who gets to go?
That would be
We
me.
got Alex, right?
Yes, yes.
It's awful that I remember your name. Let's see, so, Alex,
Yes.
I'm gonna read you what I read the other three teams. So imagine that you are an employee of Disney, whose case you've been studying. You're at a meeting at Disney in which your colleagues are discussing the issue of AI and screenwriting. However, no one has brought up ethics at all. There's a pause in the conversation. You have 90 seconds in which to convince the other people at the meeting that there are ethical issues that need to be addressed. You do not have to argue for a solution. You just need them to see that there are serious ethical issues here, okay? And the deal is this, it's been a wacky year. This is our 27th year. It's the very first year that we didn't give you guys timers. And we've had otherwise great teams go past the 30 minutes or go past the 10 minutes, and we're trying to avoid that if possible. So in the spirit of minimizing that risk, you have a couple of choices. You can do whatever you want. You can sit, because the premise is we're at a meeting. If you want to stand, you can do that, or you can sit. You can have your phone in front of you right now if you want. So if you want, you can, don't put it on timer so that it makes a noise at 0. But if you want it to count up like a stopwatch,
Yeah.
that's perfectly fine, because when I've sat in on meetings, I always have my phone in front of me. Or whatever, so it's realistic and it fits within the role playing for you to have that phone there. And if you don't have to use it, but if that happens to reduce the risk that you'll go past 90 seconds, then it's a win-win. So whenever you're ready, there's no rush, but whenever you're ready, when I hear you start to talk, I'm going to go ahead and press my phone, and then when you're done, I'll press it again, and that'll be that. So cool.
While I appreciate us bringing up the financial and legal implications of us integrating AI into our Walt Disney internal processes, we are heavily missing the ethical side of the implications that will affect every single stakeholder involved, us, the screenwriters we'd be replacing, and our customers in the end. For us, here at the company, our mission is to educate, inform, and inspire the general public through our works of media that are inspired by the very humans we intend to serve. If we replace screenwriters with AI, we would be sacrificing and going directly against our mission statement that we've upheld for more than a century. For screenwriters, not only would their job be replaced if we fully integrate AI, but we'd be compromising the integrity that they bring to us through their contractual agreements in bringing that humanistic nature back into the entertainment industry in which we belong in. And lastly, for our customers, not only would we be sacrificing on their quality of content, we'd also be avoiding very diverse topics and issues that we cover through humans in which we employ that will serve as another deterrent to our customers' enjoyment. But if we focus on these ethical natures, on the ethical nature of these considerations along with financial and legal, I truly believe we can continue to create the magic we've been creating for over a century with this new AI technology. Thank you.
Okay. Came in at 88 seconds. Okay, Well, listen, you all have been amazing, the past 30 hours or so. For those of you who have seen me before, Holy Cross is the first time I've seen you. Sadly, the other 3 teams have been stuck with me for 2 days. Because I can get into this a little too intensely. But this will go quick because we only have 90 seconds, right? Anna, obviously, it worked out very well that you really stuck with the role play. So you literally began your first 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds as if you were in a meeting. You did exactly what we were asked, me as an employee. And so what a great way to make it not just you talking about somebody else, but now if they start to think about the harms to somebody, you were, to the extent that if you were invited to that meeting, there's a good chance that they might like you as a person or something. They know you, they respect you. If you're a nice and likable person, then they probably do. And now you're asking them to think about the impact on employees with Anna as a representative of the employees. Excellent, of course, that all 4 of you used the word ethics, which is good. In Anna's case, had the 2025, what's it called?
Commitment to belonging.
So it's perfect because, again, for some of you who have heard me talk too many times, that's integrity. And there's no easier path to getting corporations to do the right thing than to simply say, gosh darn it, we've already put this down on paper. I'm simply asking for us to live what we've promised, which is integrity. You got to your data privacy and your data security. And I was like, where's bias? And you brought up bias like 10 seconds later, which is good. And once again, you did not leave the narrative of it being you. You were talking about Anna, which again is good because the way that people psychologically, I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase blind spots.
Yeah.
There's an amazing book out there written by a business ethics professor at Harvard and a business ethics professor at Notre Dame. Her name's Ann Tenbrunsel. They wrote a book called Blind Spots, and it's an amazing story about how business people are trained to pretend away and create a blind spot for the ethical issues because we in business are considered better and we're rewarded if we make fast decisions that can be backed up with numbers. We all know that ethics is not something that can always be backed up with numbers. And by definition, it requires thought and analysis. It slows down the decision-making process. It's a 250-page book. It's a fantastic book. And so getting you to say the word ethics is a way to attack the blind spot. Anna personalizing what it means to be an employee instead of her referring to them as they, all those Gap employees, none of whom earn 6 figures a year, but she earns 6 figures a year and drives a fancy car and wears expensive business clothes at the corporate headquarters. She made those people in the room, all of whom earn 6 figures, think about those members of the Gap employee base who don't earn 6 figures, who represent probably 60 or 70% of the employee population. And none of the people in the room who earn 6 figures would earn that money if it wasn't for those people in the retail stores. So, yeah, the accident and everything, again, leveraging, I didn't think it was possible for you to leverage emotion when it came to wearing Gap clothes. I've heard the insulin people and people dying from diabetes, but you got me tearing up with your accident in your Gap clothes. Using the word care, which is another important facet of getting them to overcome their blind spot. Talking about the shoes, the suit. Where did I go? I went to Gap to get the shoes. Where did I go to get the suit? I went to the Gap. Again, it's interesting. I don't know if 2 of the 4 of you use the word flourish. We've never heard that word before, but I've heard it from 3 teams over the past couple of days. So this is a new hot thing in business ethics that we need to realize. But the choice of flourish, thrive, act, and poise, just excellent word choice in the spirit of what can you do in 90 seconds? And so word choice can make a difference. And before you close, you restated the 2025 commitment. So just really, really, really good. It came in at 94 seconds on my watch,
Okay.
and this and that. But anyway, again, the timing is minuscule compared to the quality of all the work you put into it and how well you did. Coltrane. Got Coltrane. Coltrane came in at 68. So you definitely didn't go over 90, which is awesome. You left some seconds on the table, but there's nothing wrong with that. Tom likes to say that I think it's great if they can do a really great job in less time. Business people don't like to have their time wasted. And like Tom, it's like the difference between 68 and 90 seconds. Coltrane starting with Coca-Cola's mission statement, again, in the same spirit of what I just said to Anna, integrity. You know, people in the room say, oh, shut up about ethics. You can't shut up about the fact that the mission statement is there. And goodness knows, unlike the Gap, the mission statement's probably been at Coca-Cola for over 100 years. So very directly into the business people react to, which is numbers, 40% of our packaging coming from bottles. An existing commitment for 2030, but obviously Coltrane making the point that 2030 isn't good enough. You know, we need to think about why we're getting rid of the packaging now, because if it's just, oh, we made a promise about 2030, well, guess what? They can change that number. Well, you know, Trump got elected, or, you know, the EU didn't pass those social responsibility things about a month ago. And so, you know, all of that stuff isn't going to happen. So no one else met the Paris numbers. So we're going to push it off to 2040. And that's what all the business people want. But Coltrane was making the point, we need to do this for reasons other than the fact that a date has been chosen. We need to do it, and you said as soon as possible, because of the reality of why the date was pointed and why we need to change because of the harm to the environment. So he mentioned the harm to the environment. He said we need a faster time, ASAP. We need to take it way more seriously. And remember, he's doing this in the context of 14 people in a room who have been talking for 45 minutes and no one has said a word about ethics. So can you imagine someone like Coltrane saying, we need to take this more seriously? Is his way of saying, how could we have been in this room for 45 minutes and not one person here even mentioned the ethical implications of what's going on? So he, in the same spirit of praising Anna for talking about herself, he's making reference to our children and our children's children. And of course, he used the word obligation, okay? One of the most important words in ethics, connected, of course, to the word duties. So Immanuel Kant, and so an obligation. So we don't want you to mention Kant, but we want you to use ethical concepts. And so obligation is exactly right. We've got to recycle. And again, he restated the reality of the 2030. It's funny, you guys are 2025, he's 2030. These are all real dates. It's really popular for corporations to pick dates in the future and things like that. So we have time to change it, or hopefully the CEO will retire before he's held accountable for not making the dates. But thank you for repeating the 2030, because that was obviously the most important facet of your 90 seconds or whatever it was. It's not good enough for us just to worry about this in 2029. We have to do it ASAP. So, cool. We have Lauren, who goes by the nickname Laura. So Lauren, also similar to what I said about Anna, thank you very much for literally closing your eyes and imagining that you were in that moment. You instantly, in the first 1, 2, 3 seconds, acted exactly as you would act if you were in a meeting and there was a moment of pause. So I gotta imagine that it's pretty unpopular to talk about the former CEO. For someone to be as candid as you were, some people would use the word confrontational. But the reality for people who talk about ethics, because at the heart of ethics, it's about caring about persons other than me. And so whenever you're talking about ethics, people feel attacked because when you're talking about ethics, they feel that you are accusing them of being selfish, self-interested, and insufficiently caring about people other than themselves. So just the reality of talking about ethics, the word ethics is confrontational and it is received as an attack by some. But you embraced the reality of that instead of running away from it. And I've had many corporations who said, we will not call it a code of ethics. We will not call ours an ethics program or an ethics hotline. We'll call it a code of business practices. We'll call it a code of conduct. We'll call it, anything. They don't want to use the word ethics because people are uncomfortable with the word. But guess what? You need to confront people with the pain of the reality that caring about others is A, the right thing to do, it's the responsible thing to do, and it will involve trade-offs that might affect your personal self-interest, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. So just accept the fact that there will be, downsides along with the upsides to what you do that's ethical. So I like very much that you chose to be bold because people are going to be talking for a long time about the fact that you not only brought up the former CEO in that room, which is again verboten. Secondly, you mentioned his conviction. You said, I think you said the word like fraud or something. Anyway, the fact that he was self-interested and he acted against the investors. So you just laid out the truth. And for everyone who was leaving the room to go to the bathroom, they stopped to hear what you had to say because they all know you're going to get in trouble later and they want to see what you told the truth that we've lost reputation and trust, which is a very painful thing. I don't know how many of you, does anyone know the Warren Buffett quote about reputation? About wading into the water with your swimsuit on or something. But anyway, someone else said it takes years to earn trust and it takes only a second to lose it if you betray people. And so Lauren wants to grow up to be like Coltrane, so she used the word obligation. Exactly. So thank you very much. At a business ethics case competition, you used the ethical concept of obligation. You obviously laid out the reality. So everyone in the room was like, oh my God, Lauren just laid out this 5-point process. Okay, we need a public apology pledge. We need to, honor our stakeholders' interests. We need to create the ethics committee to have both internal and external members. We need a new VP of ethical affairs, and we need an ethical contract of rights. And they're just like, where the hell did that come up? And so they're like, okay, she clearly was preparing for this in advance and was expecting to lay that out in the meeting. So that was a big deal because obviously the greatest thing in the world is after each of you say what you say for your 90 seconds, someone in the room says, tell me more, and you literally get to have more than 90 seconds to have a conversation or whatever. And so I definitely believe the way that Lauren had those you had 6 things because you have to repay investors. So those 6 things, totally just in your head, there's no way anyone in the room is not going to say, where's this coming from, Lauren? And so again, all about rebuilding trust. So the effort Lauren put into talking about trust, ethics word, accountability, ethics word. Obviously, ethical contract of rights, ethics word. And new VP of Ethical Affairs, which are a job that I can apply for someday. Good for Tim. Self-interest, okay. Stakeholders, utilitarianism, ethics word. So very good that you accomplished the goal. You found a way within the time limit to, well, actually, you came in a couple of seconds late. Yeah, I didn't write it down, but I'm now remembering that you came in similar to Anna. And then you close with, again, one of the most important ethics words, fixing the harm done to investors. And again, so important, Coltrane, what each of you decides to do in your last 3 seconds in this and that. So again, very good for all the amount of time you all devoted to preparing for the 90 seconds. Alex, again, forgive me for repeating, but like the ones I've mentioned, you clearly did the role play the way that we wanted to. You literally played those first 1, 2, 3 seconds realistically. And so making the point, we're missing the ethical issues in the conversation about AI. And you jump again right to the utilitarian concept of stakeholders. And so, you know, making it clear, because you can all imagine the number of people in Disney who care deeply about the customers, who really do care about the screenwriters, who can make or break a film, and things like that. And the other stakeholder is Disney itself, right? So definitely care about all 3 of these. So you were reactive and responsive to the reality that in your previous presentations, the judges told you that they liked very much your educate, inform, and inspire. So I think Coltrane did this to, you know, leverage the mission of the organization, because integrity is the easiest way to get business people to believe in it. So it's a great mission statement, and you reshared it with anyone in the room who hadn't thought of it for a while, maybe someone in the room who doesn't even know it. And how can they ignore you when you say educate, influence? Did I get it right?
Educate, inform, and inspire.
Inform and inspire. Okay, sorry. So you make the point. Oh, and yeah, and just, you know, if you said if we replace the screenwriters, we are going against a century associated with the mission of this organization. So in that respect, you know, you and Coltrane are lucky that by choosing companies, both of which are over 100 years old, you can really take advantage of the very popular lore associated with that. And I know for a fact at both companies, anytime someone brings in our history and our traditions, you know, people perk up and listen. The concept, you know, you're making the point, you don't care about this stuff, compromising integrity, the contract. So the contract is, you know, Jeremy Bentham, social contract theory. So a big part of ethics, once again, if we have made a commitment to one another, we honor that commitment. That's integrity. And again, choosing to say humanistic. So this fits in with Anna and her flourishing, whoever else said, I know there was at least 2 of you that said flourishing. So you said, you know, we can't avoid, you know, if we go with AI completely, we'll be avoiding diverse topics, or the risk that we will, and the customers will lose. So you're speaking with an audience that cares deeply about the customers not losing. Once again, very specifically mentioned the reality. You said the word ethical, and you said we have to think about the ethical issues alongside the financial and the legal. So it worked. And again, for those of you who have not been in the room, the judges have liked Alex's reference to the magic. And so he's listened to the judges, and he found a way in his time, which, as we all heard, was 88 seconds, to close with, we need this, we need to care about these things to create the magic. So So any thoughts, feedback? How many of you are desperately tired of my voice? Anna,
I have a question. So I know that Lauren and I were both seconds over. How does that affect the judging, I guess is my question? Because I obviously in the grand scheme of things, we're here to learn and
right,
we're
right.
here to do a good job,
So
but that's.
I'm gonna ask Tom, you know,
Okay.
it is a factor on the judging form, but it's one factor out of about like 25. You know,
Okay.
and everything, but then again, yeah,
In the past, if you went over, you automatically didn't win.
yeah,
That was
so.
in the past, but I know-
Yeah, and there's a possibility behind that. And, you know, and again, and it, you know, it doesn't matter, it's not like they're gonna make you pay something.
Yeah,
But yeah, so it's a fair question, and because it's the very first year that we didn't give you timers, I'm wondering if by this moment in the conversation, Tom might have a little bit of flexibility. I know for a fact that several Uber judges are gonna say to Tom next year, either bring back the timers or notify the students in advance that they're allowed to put their phone in front of them. Because I don't know if any of the faculty members here have ever worked in business, but it is realistic. You all know, I've presented before boards of directors. I've been presenting to people sometimes who don't want me in the room. And so if the corporate secretary is controlling the agenda and says you have 3 minutes, she doesn't like me. I can give you her name. She doesn't like me. She wants me to shut up because she wants to gloss over the reality, because she's in legal, I'm in ethics. And so she is going to cut me off at 3 minutes in an unpleasant way. And so this whole concept of being forced to accomplish your goal within a time deadline is very realistic. I've literally lived it. So good question. I'll check with Tom.
yeah, of course.
Yeah. Any other reactions? You know, this is kind of our last time to talk like this, even though I'm sure you're desperate to get out of this room. But any reactions or feedback? You can say, well, Lauren, you can say confrontational things if you want. You're like, Tim, have you gained weight? You know, it's not. Anybody? Yeah.
Can I say on behalf of, I think, all the students, the feedback that you give is great. Is really good feedback, I think, for students to hear and from somebody who has been there and done this. So thank you for
Oh,
that.
thank you. You can sense that I'm a little embarrassed that some people think I go too far, but it's a crazy reality that I was a 19-year-old person sitting in a room like this. I got excited. I didn't know what I wanted to do for my life yet. And I experienced something like this. And I said, I wonder if I could have a career in business ethics. And I've been doing it every day since. I've made, you know, good money to, you know, have 3 kids and put them through college. I've worked with presidents of the United States. I've been on national television, like all these things in the world. And all I was a 19-year-old person who said, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I wonder if I could go into business ethics, and I did. So, cool. Anything else, Coltrane?
Yeah, not to take away from the emotional piece you just said, but what's your name, sir?
Alex.
I love your hat. That's it, that's all I got.
Well, one thing, Coltrane, you don't know that everyone else does is my brother's a screenwriter.
Ooh.
And he was one of 3 attorneys, because he's an attorney, representing the Writers Guild of America, the union for screenwriters, in the negotiations. So their 30-minute presentation was all this stuff, so much so that I was looking to see if you maybe had my brother in your photos. Because remember the photo of the people on strike?
Yeah.
So anyway, it was just incredible. I don't know, have any of you ever seen the movie Liar Liar with Jim Carrey? My brother wrote that.
Really?
So that's one of a bunch of films. That it was the second most high revenue film in 1997, behind some little movie called Titanic. So James Cameron had just released Titanic in '98. My brother was super big. But anyway, so it was awkward for Alex and his teammates because I had to fight taking it too seriously, and I had to fight saying, no, what you just said isn't true, because I know I'm on the inside. What they did was great. You heard us say you at the 10-minute, we were just so impressed with how well researched the team, what university again?
University of Illinois.
Yeah, University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. So, all right, well, listen, thank you very much for your kind comments. Thank you all for your patience through the whole thing.